Hey, what's up? It's Joe Reis. How you doing? So I'm just walking around stunning Porto Montenegro right now, in Montenegro, and I figured this is as good a place as any to record this talk about what I call the Great Reset, which is, I think this perfectly describes sort of the time that we're living in right now, where the reset button has been hit on many industries, but you probably just don't know it yet, right? But the point of the talk is going to be that we're all basically going back to square one again. We're all back to the starting line, and it's up to us to invent a new future. So what does this look like? Well, there's an old quote by science fiction writer William Gibson, where he said, "The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed." I think this perfectly sums up the situation that we're in right now. Many of us are probably privileged to use AI coding tools, AI workflows, increasingly agentic workflows as well. I feel like we're just at the very beginning stages of understanding how to use these tools, what the possibilities are, and so on. And so, the opportunity in front of everybody really is exactly that. Where do we go from here, right? Pretty cool odds, actually. I know where I'd go. So let's talk about the sort of the past and the present, and then the future, right? Because again, the future is something I think all of us can help build. But the past and the present of data engineering, what has that been so far? Well, historically, data engineering has been about moving data from point A to B. In fundamentals of data engineering, Matt Housley and I describe that as the data engineering lifecycle, where you're getting data from source systems that generate data. This might be databases, APIs, files, and so forth. You're ingesting the data somehow. You're storing it, you're modeling and transforming it, and finally serving it to downstream use cases like analytics, machine learning, maybe reverse ETL, if that's even still a thing, I'm not sure. So that's sort of the workflow, right? That was what we had been doing for ages. When the data warehouse came out, what was it, the late 80s, I believe? Actually, Bill told me he came out in 1983, I believe, but it was took a bit for things to catch on. You had the data warehouse, you had ETL, and these were very much workflows and patterns meant to take data from OLTP systems, online transaction processing, and then put those into analytical systems where, surprisingly enough, the business could analyze the data, right? And so this is sort of the pattern we've been living in for a long time. Really, we've been designing data systems and data really for human consumption, right? And along the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, you started getting a glimpse of what would become the big data era, quote unquote. Right, so data that's increasingly bigger in terms of velocity, variety, and volume, the three V's of big data. And that ushered in, I think, a lot of interesting paradigms, really. It meant we could operate on data at scale. It meant that we could operate on data at speed. And you started seeing new technologies come about, things like Hadoop, massive parallel processing for data, and new analytical systems as well, right? And then the rise of machine learning was another one. And so all these things sort of coincided with just data becoming the new oil, quote unquote. Well, that's this music here. It's pretty cool area, right? Isn't this awesome? Isn't this awesome? This is cool. So, right. So, here I am talking about data and like absolute paradise. Look at that yacht, by the way. I think it's huge. So, see a playground for billionaires. Anyway, so all this meant really that we had the capabilities of, processing more and more data with, larger machine learning models as well. But we're still basically doing the same old workflow, right? Moving data from point A to B, doing something with it. That's a data engineering life cycle, right? It's a data engineering life cycle 101. And then the modern data stack comes about. The modern data stack, I think, helped make these tools more accessible to the average person. Before, you had to spin up a lot of hardware. It was very expensive, very time consuming, a lot of effort. The modern data stack really meant that you could have all the benefits of this awesome technology with just a swipe of a credit card, really, right? A lot of the tuning is done in the background for you, and I think this is a great time. So that lasted pretty much from the mid 2010s into sort of the late early 2020s, right? And then this thing called ChatGPT happened in November of 2022, which is kind of funny because it was actually a science experiment at OpenAI. I don't think they expected it to go anywhere, but it did, and that changed everything right now, right? And so you fast forward to today. I don't know that there's anybody I've talked to in the world who's not using AI at this point. It's sort of just the given that everybody's using some form of AI, whether you're a non-technical person, a technical person. All these tools are available to you, and I think that's really cool. I think that's awesome, because what it means is everyone has the same capabilities at their fingertips now. It's not like the old days where you had to get a real expensive license, millions of dollars for ChatGPT or something, right? I think that would have been the case several years ago. Now, it's basically free. You can pay for better versions, but everyone has the same power at their fingertips now. And so it's interesting. The consumerization of AI has meant that we're able to explore new ways of working, reimagining the way we work. And I hope that we can do that, because if you look at the success rates, I would say more of the failure rates of IT projects, it's quite miserable, really. Historically, IT projects, and data projects in particular, have upwards of an 80% failure rate. Tool adoption, it's around 25%. Most tools are adopted in organizations. That's pretty dreadful, right? But if you look at how AI is being adopted, that's a much different story. It's being readily adopted by people. If your company doesn't provide you with AI, you're most certainly going to bring your own. And so I think that's a big difference between past trends and today. You saw the same thing with mobile. So what does this mean for data engineering? Well, I think it means a few things, right? I'm guessing that everyone watching this is using some form of AI, whether using an AI coding assistant, whether you're writing MCP servers, whether you're, doing whatever, right? You're probably already exploring agents and how those fit in, and there's not a data engineer I know who's not jumping into, a lot of the new crop of AI tools. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. And I hope this continues, because what's on the other side of this void I described, where everyone's sort of staring off into the void, wondering what's on the other side? This very much is our ability to reimagine the types of architectures and workflows that we'll do as data engineers. So it's an incredibly powerful moment. What does this mean for me? What do I speculate? I'm glad you asked. It's something I wrote about a few months ago. I called it the postmodern data stack. I know that term has obviously been used and abused quite often, but by this I actually mean it in the literal postmodern sense. Where if you know modernism, that was the movement really that focused on realism and so forth. And now we're talking about vibe coding, stuff that's almost surreal, almost silly in some ways, right? It doesn't make any rational sense, but it totally does in a lot of other ways. The architectures of the future, if you can imagine what those will be. Well, right now we speculate these will be agents that will be running everything in the background. So you're not just talking about the traditional data stacks that we've had in the past. Some kids over there. What you're talking about are architectures that will increasingly be autonomous, acting on their own, right? You're talking about architectures that will be self-healing, self-evolving. You're talking about architectures that will take actions, right? So in the past, right, we dealt with architectures that supported analytics and maybe some machine learning models, but typically analytics. And the analytics was really, I'm going to read a report, digest the information in my head, and then use that to make a decision to take an action, right? That's historically the paradigm. Actionable insights, right, as they used to call it. I think that's still going to be important for human-in-the-loop decision makers, but going forward, right, the ability for autonomous actions to take place is going to fundamentally change the way businesses run. It's going to fundamentally alter organizational charts. It's going to fundamentally alter probably a lot of things. And so those are the things you need to start thinking about. We're not operating in the world of yesterday anymore. It's not just about actionable insights. It's not just about providing data for the recommendation model, right? Those things will still be there, but increasingly you're talking about workflows and architectures and technologies designed for humans and machines. It's fundamentally a different mindset and a different paradigm than we've had. So what does this mean? What does this mean for you? My advice is to start exploring the boundaries of what this new world looks like. Ask AI about the architectures that it would build for itself. I think that's a very fascinating experiment that I do all the time. We're talking next generation semantic layers, right? We're talking next generation data models. We're talking next generation architectures capable of being queried by hundreds or thousands of agents per second, each agent having a slightly different type of query, right? Each agent, having a different prompt, maybe a slightly different action it has to go take. These systems don't exist today, right? This technology doesn't exist today. The really cool thing is you have the ability to build all this, right? So I think that's, sorry, I dropped my bag here. So I think that's the exciting thing for me right now is, we are living in a once in a lifetime opportunity to not just, be a passive bystander in this world, but to invent the future, invent new ways of doing things, invent new architectures. And the cool thing is you can do this right now. You can do this very quickly, prototype out, things in AI, right? You can pick up your favorite AI coding tool and imagine cool stuff and build it. And it'll do a decent job at building you a prototype. Obviously, understand the fundamentals, understand the fundamentals of data engineering, okay? But so you know what you're doing. But leverage these tools and capabilities, to I think explore the edges of what's possible and what's next. So for what I do, I spend a lot of time, working on, what would real-time agent-ready knowledge graphs look like, right? And so the cool thing is you can build this and test it out. So it's no longer just about whiteboarding. It's no longer just about hypothesizing and discussing, hey, do you think that would be possible? Just go build it, right? Show, don't tell. That's the key thing right now is you have to put yourself in the driver's seat, own it, own the solution, build it, try it out, test it out, show other people, get their feedback. Show it to other AIs. Other AIs are interesting in terms of providing feedback on what you've built. But I would say the capabilities are right in front of you. It's right in front of everybody. And this comes to the final point, really, is that, there's been very few times in the world where everybody has been basically pushed back to the starting line. Again, the future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And what I mean by the starting line is, even if you talk to some of the most accomplished engineers in the world, they'll tell you right now that they're still trying to figure things out, right? Just like you are. Nobody has this figured out. That's the exciting thing. Everyone's back at the same starting line, whether you're technical or not. But the thing is, you all have the same tools. Yeah, sort of, but most of us have the same tools. But I think there's a level of enthusiasm for building that I haven't seen in a very, very long time. I think the other time I saw this was maybe during the days of the web, right? Maybe mobile. But this eclipses all of that right now. For me, I've never been so excited, maybe except for the web, in terms of the potential of what we can all build together, really. I think as a community. And so, the takeaway from this is, don't be scared of what's coming. You have a chance to build it. I have a chance to build it. Let's build it together. This is, the future. Again, the reset button has been hit for all of us, and we're all back at the starting line. And we can all build, the next thing, the next generation, the future. We can all do this together. Thank you very much. I'm going to go for a walk now. Okay. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.